This video is a fictional sci-fi story created for entertainment and storytelling purposes only. All characters, alien species, events, technologies, and scenarios are fictional. This content is not real news, official information, or scientific documentation.
The box appeared on the northern taxiway of Area 51 at 3:47 in the morning, and Airman Lara Bennett had 41 seconds left before her life stopped belonging entirely to her. She was walking the perimeter of Hangar 18 with a thermos of coffee in one hand and an M4 carbine resting against her shoulder when every light on the western side of the base blinked out. The darkness lasted less than a heartbeat. When the floodlights returned, the stars had shifted, not enough for an ordinary person to notice. Lara noticed because she had spent 18 months walking the same route beneath the same Nevada sky. Orion's shoulder sat a fraction too far west. The moon appeared lower. A meteor trail that had been fading above the mountains was simply gone. Her digital watch read 03:47:29. It flickered. 03:47:41. 11 seconds had vanished. Lara raised her radio. Tower, post 9. Confirm time synchronization. No answer. The channel had not filled with static. Static would have been reassuring. The radio produced nothing at all, not even the low electrical breath of an open frequency. She pressed the transmit button again. Tower, post 9, radio check. A shape occupied the taxiway ahead of her. It had not been there before the lights failed. The object was about a meter long and half a meter high, shaped like an old military footlocker, but made from something darker than painted metal. It rested directly across the yellow line, its surface reflecting neither floodlight nor starlight. Lara's training told her to keep her distance, report the object, and wait for the emergency response team. Curiosity had been part of the human nervous system longer than military regulations had existed. She approached. The object did not resemble a crashed drone. There were no rotors, seams, handles, or impact marks. It appeared to have been placed gently on the concrete. As Lara reached 10 meters, her watch stopped. At 8 meters, the flashlight attached to her rifle went dark. At 5 meters, her radio transmitted a voice. Not the tower, not another guard. Her own voice. Do not touch it. Lara froze. The transmission repeated. Do not touch it. She looked at the radio clipped to her vest. The speaker was dead again. A faint line appeared across the top of the object. Characters flowed through unfamiliar shapes before reorganizing themselves into English. For the attention of the dominant sapient species of Sol 3, one line became 2. Content: 1 notice of scheduled biological cessation. Response window: 72 standard rotations. Lara read the words twice. The base klaxon began to scream. Red emergency lights activated around the hangars. Armored vehicles emerged from secured buildings. Personnel shouted through radios that had abruptly regained power. Lara keyed her microphone. Tower, post 9. I have an unidentified object on the north taxiway. It appeared during the chronometric interruption. Post 9, maintain distance, the controller replied. Response team inbound. Lara looked down at her boots. Her left foot stood less than a meter from the box. The surface changed again. Airman Lara Bennett. Biological age, 23 years, 6 months, 4 days. Lara tightened her grip on the rifle. The next line was worse. Cardiac arrest probability within next 60 seconds. 0.000013%. Then the figure began rising. 0.03%. 1.7%, 14.2%. A sound moved beneath the concrete. Lara turned. One of the armored response vehicles had accelerated too quickly around the hangar. Its driver was looking at the box instead of the road. The vehicle struck a maintenance cart, swerved, and tipped onto 2 wheels. It was coming directly toward her. Lara jumped. The vehicle clipped her shoulder and threw her across the taxiway. Her helmet struck the concrete. Her rifle skidded away. The armored vehicle stopped less than 3 meters from the box. Lara rolled onto her side. Pain burned through her left arm. Something warm ran from her forehead into her eye. The box displayed cardiac arrest probability, 63.8%. Her vision narrowed. A medic shouted her name. Lara pushed herself upright and placed one hand against the nearest solid object to keep from falling. Her palm landed on the box. Its surface felt neither cold nor warm. It felt absent. Blood from her forehead ran over her fingers. White lines spread beneath her hand. The lid disappeared. It did not rise or slide. One moment the object was sealed. The next, its upper surface had folded somewhere geometry did not permit. Inside lay three objects. The first was a thin sheet of silver material covered in moving characters. The second was a black sphere no larger than a plum. The third was an ordinary-looking key. Above them floated a countdown, 72 o'clock. It began descending, 71, 59, 59, 71, 59, 58. Then the entire inner surface of the box illuminated. Species designation, 7,441. Local designation, humanity. Current population, 8,231,443,912. The number increased by 2, decreased by 1, increased by 7. The box was counting every living human being on Earth. A final message appeared. Expiration date, 91 days, 11 hours, 04 minutes. Lara stared at the words until the medic reached her. As hands pulled her away, the message changed. Contact representative identified. Delivery accepted. The countdown continued. And 11 seconds after Lara's blood touched the box, every phone, television, cockpit display, and emergency screen on Earth briefly showed the same date. Humanity had 91 days left. Colonel Marcus Reyes reached the taxiway in a jeep driven at speeds the vehicle's engineers had never expected it to survive. He was 58 years old, had flown combat missions over 3 continents, and had spent 9 years commanding a base whose official existence remained negotiable. He had witnessed aircraft that could cross a state before their engine noise reached the runway. He had examined materials recovered from objects that no nation admitted building. He had once watched a test pilot land a prototype after losing half its control surfaces and then complained that the coffee waiting for him was cold. None of that prepared him for a black box that knew the name of every human being alive. Lara sat against the side of an ambulance while medics examined her. Her forehead had been bandaged. Her left shoulder was dislocated but not broken. The black box remained open 20 meters away. Its countdown displayed 71, 48, 12. Airman Bennett, Reyes said. She tried to stand. Stay down. Yes, sir. Report from the moment your watch skipped. Lara did. She did not embellish. She did not hide that she had approached against protocol. She described her own voice, warning her through the radio, the probability calculation, and the contents of the box. When she finished, Reyes looked toward the response vehicle that had almost killed her. You believe it predicted the accident? I believe it watched the accident before we did. A technical team surrounded the box with portable sensors. Has anyone touched the contents? Reyes asked. No, replied Major Ellen Shaw, the base's intelligence director. And after what happened to every electronic system within 15 meters, nobody will until we understand more. Do we understand anything? The object has no consistent mass. Radar does not detect it. Thermal imaging shows the concrete beneath it, as though it is transparent. The surface absorbs directed light but casts a shadow. That sentence contradicts itself. So do the instruments. Reyes turned to Lara. You touched it first. Yes, sir. Did it feel alive? Lara considered. No. Mechanical? No. What did it feel like? She looked at the dark opening. Like it had been waiting longer than we have existed. By sunrise, the object had been moved without moving. Attempts to lift it failed. Hydraulic equipment bent. A crane cable snapped. The concrete cracked before the box shifted a millimeter. Drilling beneath it revealed something worse. The visible object was only the portion intersecting normal space. Instruments lowered through the runway detected its geometry continuing downward for an unknown distance, while occupying no physical volume that radar could map. The entire northern taxiway was sealed beneath a temporary containment structure. At 9 in the morning, the first specialists arrived. Dr. Ines Halberstam entered the hangar carrying one canvas bag and an expression of irritation. She was 61, narrow as a folded umbrella, and one of the world's leading authorities on languages no living person had spoken. She circled the box twice. "Well," she said, "it is not Sumerian." Beside her, physicist Dr. Kenji Alarcon held a sensor toward the object. It beeped, produced a warning tone, then displayed a polite request to be restarted. Alarcon frowned. "My instrument has developed professional boundaries." Sable Ito, a signals intelligence analyst with 30 years of classified experience, stood several meters away and listened through an analog headset connected to nothing more sophisticated than a copper coil. Reyes watched her. "What do you hear?" "People. Whose people? Not ours." The words drew everyone's attention. Ito adjusted the dial. Thousands of layered signals, too weak to separate. Different rhythms, different carrier structures. Some are mathematical, some resemble language, some sound like distress calls. Coming from the box? No. Passing through it. Lara had insisted on returning to the hangar after medical treatment. Her arm rested in a sling. Passing from where? Ito looked at her. Everywhere. The silver sheet inside the box rose on its own. It hovered above the open compartment and rotated toward Halberstam. Its characters transformed into English. Halberstam read aloud, "To the sapient species designated Sol 3 Prime, local designation Humanity. This notice is issued by the Concordat of Elder Species, under Article 7 of the Ledger of Suns." She paused long enough to glance at Reyes. "Your species has been observed, assessed, and classified. Your species is projected to produce an uncontrolled causal fracture event within 411 standard orbital cycles. Probability exceeds authorized tolerance." The sheet generated an image. Earth appeared from orbit. A point of light formed beyond the moon. Space folded inward. Earth disappeared first. Then the moon, Mars, and the sun. The darkness spread outward, consuming stars in expanding waves, until a section of the galaxy became an empty wound. The image vanished. Halberstam continued. "To prevent projected contamination, your biological civilization is scheduled for cessation in 91 local rotations." Alarcon spoke under his breath. "They intend to kill us now for something we might do in 4 centuries. Halberstam kept reading. "This action is neither punishment nor retaliation. It is preventative continuity enforcement." Sable Ito folded her arms. "Accountants." Reyes glanced at her. "The dangerous kind," she said. "The kind who believe murder becomes moral when written in a ledger," Halberstam continued. "In accordance with Concordat protocol, your species may present one appeal before expiration. Enclosed are 2 instruments." The black sphere rose. "The witness contains the complete behavioral audit supporting the decision." The silver key followed. "The key permits one delegation of no more than 3 biological representatives to appear before the Concordat. The response window closes when the initial countdown reaches 0. There will be no extension. There will be no second delivery." Enquete. The sheet descended. The witness remained in the air. Its black surface developed a point of white light. Reyes looked toward Ito. "What happens now?" The sphere answered directly inside their minds. Each person heard a different voice. Lara heard her grandmother. Reyes heard his father. Halberstam heard a sister who had been dead for 37 years. Ito heard no voice at all, which unsettled her more deeply than any imitation could have. "The audit will begin. Viewer consent is not required." The hangar disappeared. Lara stood beneath an African sky more than 300,000 years in the past. The hangar, the soldiers, and the box remained physically present, yet their senses had been overwritten by the witness. Grass reached her knees. Wind carried dust and the smell of animals. Nearby, a small group of early humans gathered around a weak fire. They were not noble ancestors arranged for a museum display. They were hungry. One child coughed against his mother's chest. An old man with a broken leg lay beneath an animal hide. Food was scarce enough that every piece mattered. A woman returned from the grassland carrying meat. She divided it among the children. There was not enough for herself. The witness moved forward. They saw the first wound closed with fiber and bone. The first tool made for someone too injured to make it themselves. The first grave containing flowers. The first stranger accepted beside a fire, despite the cost of another mouth. Then came cities. Walls rose, fields spread. Kings declared themselves chosen by gods. Armies marched beneath symbols. Traders crossed deserts carrying salt, cloth, mathematics, and disease. The witness showed no heroic version of history. It showed what people did when nobody expected to be remembered. A guard opened a city gate for refugees and was executed by his ruler. A merchant sold poisoned grain during famine. A mother divided her last bread among children who were not hers. A commander ordered prisoners blinded because he feared rebellion. A scribe hid tablets beneath a temple floor as invaders burned the city above him. The centuries accelerated. Lara saw slave ships, empires, mass graves, and inventions designed to kill people beyond the reach of a human voice. She saw resistance, a woman teaching forbidden letters to enslaved children, a soldier refusing an execution order and standing beside the prisoners, a village hiding families whose names had been placed on government lists, a doctor entering a plague ward after understanding that he might never leave. The witness showed Hiroshima. The light came first, then heat, then human shapes remained as shadows on stone. It showed the decades after, when survivors and scientists built systems to prevent that weapon from being used casually again. It showed failures. It showed near failures. It showed officers inside missile bunkers receiving false warnings and choosing to wait rather than begin the end of the world. Lara saw a Soviet officer refuse to report a computer's mistaken attack alert. A submarine commander declined permission to launch a nuclear torpedo while depth charges exploded around him. People whose names most of humanity never learned had stood between civilization and its extinction. The audit continued. A nurse held a stranger's hand through layers of plastic because his family could not enter the hospital. A firefighter carried an injured dog from a burning house after being told the building might collapse. A refugee who owned almost nothing shared water with another refugee from the nation that had bombed his city. A man filmed himself humiliating someone weaker for entertainment. A crowd watched. Another crowd intervened. Every cruelty had context. Every kindness had cost. The witness offered neither excuse nor praise. At the end of 1 hour and 11 minutes, the hangar returned. Several soldiers were crying. Alarcon sat on the floor, breathing as though he had run a great distance. The sphere spoke. Assessment. Humanity displays standard predatory aggression, territorial competition, hierarchy formation, in-group preference and resource violence. Reyes wiped one hand across his face. Nothing special. Correct. The witness's point of light brightened. Human cruelty does not exceed established thresholds. Lara looked at it. Then why are we scheduled for extinction? Because your compassion does. Nobody spoke. The sphere continued. Human cooperative behavior routinely exceeds predictive benefit. Individuals sacrifice reproductive advantage, resources, and survival probability for unrelated organisms, ideological abstractions, future generations, and imagined persons. Halberstam's gaze sharpened. Imagined persons, fiction. The sphere projected books, paintings, films, and oral stories. Humanity practices emotional investment in entities known not to exist. This trait increases the probability of cross-species empathy. It also increases the probability of ideological contagion. Ito understood first. You are not afraid we will conquer the galaxy. Conquest is predictable. You are afraid we will change it. Change without authorization destabilizes continuity. Lara stepped closer. You intend to kill us because we might make other species question you. Your extinction order is based on causal fracture probability. That is not what I asked. The witness hesitated for less than a second. It was enough. Alarcon stood. It can hide information. Authorized audit content has been delivered. Who authorized it? The Concordat. Unanimously, the sphere's light flickered. Halberstam turned toward Reyes. There is disagreement among them. The witness descended toward the box. Before it reached the compartment, Lara asked another question. Why give us a hearing if the decision is already made? The sphere stopped. To preserve procedural legitimacy. Sable Ito gave a humorless smile. They need us to participate in our own sentence. The witness returned to the box. The response countdown displayed 66:03:44. On a nearby monitor, the population counter changed in real time. 8,231,591,004. 8 billion people had no idea that a sphere beneath a Nevada hangar had just described them as a destabilizing form of compassion. That secrecy lasted another 19 minutes. At 10:32 a.m., every disconnected screen on Earth displayed footage from the audit. A child sharing food, a city burning, a doctor refusing to leave a patient. The images ended with a message. Species 7441 may appeal. Response window remaining. 65:44:21. The box had informed the planet. Governments could no longer contain the truth. Panic did not arrive everywhere in the same form. Stock markets collapsed before noon. Airports filled with people trying to reach families. Highways stopped moving. Churches, mosques, temples, synagogues, and public squares overflowed. Some people celebrated the expiration date as liberation. Others denied it while staring at the countdown on their phones. Groups formed around theories that the box was an American weapon, a religious judgment, an artificial intelligence experiment, or a psychological attack by an enemy government. Nuclear forces entered elevated readiness, because human beings still found familiar enemies easier to fear than the unknown. The United Nations convened an emergency session. The first 6 hours were spent deciding who had authority to select the delegation. China demanded population-weighted representation. Russia insisted no appeal could be led by the nation possessing the box. India proposed that the delegation include a philosopher. Brazil nominated an environmental scientist. France suggested a constitutional lawyer. Several governments proposed heads of state. Sable Ito listened to the debate from a secure room beneath Area 51. They are selecting people who know how to speak for governments, she said. The Concordat is judging a species. Reyes stood beside the live feed. And who speaks for a species? Nobody. That may be the first honest answer we have. Lara sat at the conference table with her arms still in a sling. Her face had become known worldwide after security footage of the delivery leaked online. She had received millions of messages. Some called her humanity's first representative. Some blamed her for touching the box. Some asked whether she had seen God inside it. One message came from a little girl in Kansas. The girl had drawn 3 stick figures standing in front of a black square. Above them, she had written, "Tell them we are still learning." Lara placed the drawing beside her coffee. Reyes noticed. How old? 9. Qualified? As much as anyone. Reyes looked toward the conference screen. Diplomats were arguing over the delegation's third seat. Dr. Ines Halberstam had been accepted as the linguistic and cultural representative. Judge Adeze Nwosu had been selected to present humanity's legal case. Nwosu had spent 15 years prosecuting crimes against humanity, and the decade before that defending children forced to fight in wars. The final seat remained contested. The United States wanted a military officer. Several nations wanted a scientist. Religious leaders wanted a spiritual representative. Reyes turned off his microphone. Airman Bennett. Lara looked up. You are coming with me. He led her to his office. A photograph of Reyes's family stood beside a stack of reports. His wife. 2 adult sons. 3 grandchildren. He poured coffee for both of them. Sir, if this is about media appearances, it is not. He placed the silver key on the desk. The object looked ordinary enough to open a house. You carried it from the taxiway to containment. The box made me carry it. It responded to you. That does not qualify me to represent humanity. No one is qualified. Judge Nwosu has spent her life arguing cases that matter. Correct. Dr. Halberstam understands how civilizations express themselves. Correct. I guard a fence. Reyes leaned back. You walked toward something impossible before anyone told you history was watching. I violated protocol. You also reported accurately while injured, refused to invent certainty, and admitted what you did not understand. Those qualities are rare in people with more impressive titles. Lara shook her head. You need someone who can answer the Concordat. No, we need someone who can ask it the right question. She looked at the key. What if I fail? Then you fail as one of 3 people who stood between humanity and extinction. That is not the same as doing nothing. Everyone on Earth will know. Yes. My mother will know. Yes. She already calls me every 30 minutes. That may be the greatest threat you face. Lara almost laughed. Reyes pushed the key toward her. You touch the box first. You will carry this through the door. Lara did not pick it up. Why are you not going? Because if the hearing fails, somebody has to prepare Earth for the next 90 days. You believe we can fight them? I believe that if someone comes to kill humanity, humanity is entitled to be inconvenient. Lara closed her hand around the key. The countdown passed 60 hours. The delegation was announced. Reactions were immediate. Some countries objected that a junior American airman had been selected. Others approved because Lara was an ordinary service member, rather than a politician, general, or government minister. Analysts debated whether she represented military power, working families, or political compromise. Lara represented none of those things deliberately. She represented a young woman who wished her grandmother were alive to explain what courage was supposed to feel like. Meanwhile, Alarcón and Ito studied the box. The response window seemed straightforward. Use the key within 72 hours or lose the right to appeal. The expiration counter was less simple. Every time global military readiness increased, several seconds disappeared. Every time large-scale violence broke out, minutes vanished. When a ceasefire was declared in 3 existing wars, the countdown regained 27 seconds. The date is adaptive, Alarcón said. Reyes stared at the readings. It is judging us before the hearing, or adjusting the speed of the fleet. Ito removed her headset. The signals passing through the box are changing. How? More voices. Human? No. She amplified one frequency. A translated message emerged through the speakers. Do not trust the hearing. Another signal followed. The key opens a court built to confirm the sentence. Then dozens more. We surrendered. We fought. We hid. We were archived. We were still erased. The transmission stopped. Ito looked toward the black sphere. The witness does not only contain records. Lara understood. It contains witnesses. The dead were speaking through the box. The coordinates hidden in the silver sheet pointed to an empty region of the Pacific Ocean. No island stood within 300 kilometers. No shipping route crossed it. The location existed precisely at sea level, on a date and time 13 hours before the response window ended. The delegation traveled aboard the USS Rhode Island, escorted by vessels from 6 nations. Reyes accompanied them as far as the launch chamber. He handed Lara a small analog watch. This one cannot connect to anything. Does it keep accurate time? No watch has kept accurate time since the box arrived. She fastened it around her wrist. Judge Adaize Nwosu waited nearby in a dark blue suit. She was 53, tall and composed, with a voice that could turn a question into a place from which lying became difficult. Halberstam carried no notes. You prepared nothing? Lara asked. I prepared for 40 years. The notes would only make me nervous. At the appointed hour, the submarine surfaced beneath a white sky. The ocean was calm. A door stood on the water. It was 7 feet high, 4 feet wide, and appeared to be made from weathered wood. Waves passed around it without moving it. No frame supported it. The 3 women crossed in a small inflatable boat. When Lara stepped from the boat, the water beneath her boots became solid. One of the sailors crossed himself. The others watched without speaking. Lara inserted the silver key. It turned easily. The door opened onto a space larger than any human building. Stars rotated across the ceiling. The floor appeared to be water, but held their weight. Along the curved walls waited 9 beings. One resembled a column of moving geometry. One had the body of a great 4-eyed feline. One floated inside a sphere of vapor. One existed partly outside the chamber, its visible portion resembling a vast lattice extending into darkness. Others were more difficult to describe because the human mind converted them into shapes it could tolerate. A 10th being waited in the center. He appeared as a very tall, elderly man holding a dark staff. His face was kind in the way mountains were kind, not hostile, but shaped by scales of time in which human suffering could become small. "You came," he said. "Many do not." Nuasu stepped forward. "You delivered a door. We used it. You were required to. Then do not praise us for obeying." The being studied her. "Judge Adameze, Nuosu, you know me. We know every member of your species." Lara looked toward the 9. "Then why did you need the witness? To assess whether your species understands itself." Halberstam tilted her head. "You showed us what you selected. That is not understanding. That is editing." The geometric column pulsed. The tall being glanced toward it. "It expresses interest." "In what?" "In how quickly you challenge the premise." The being lifted his staff. "You have 1 local hour. You may present evidence, make argument, and ask questions. At the conclusion, the 9 present will vote. 5 votes for continuance will suspend your expiration order. 5 votes for cessation will confirm it." "Who are you?" Lara asked. "I am Arbiter Kale." "Do you vote?" "Yes." "Did you vote to schedule us?" "I did." Lara appreciated the direct answer more than she wanted to. Nuosu began. She did not claim humanity was good. She acknowledged wars, slavery, genocide, greed, and deliberate cruelty. She spoke without excuses. Then she asked a question. "How old is the youngest species among the 9? Kale replied, "Approximately 400,000 of your years beyond self-awareness." "How long did that species require to establish stable interstellar conduct?" 200,000 years. "And humanity has possessed global communication for less than 1 century. Correct. You have judged a child by the weapons it may build as an adult. We have judged a trajectory. A trajectory changes when observed. Not sufficiently. According to whose model? The Concordats. Created by species that survived their own adolescence." Kale's expression remained calm. Nuosu continued. "You possess records of yourselves at our stage?" "Yes. If you had applied your current thresholds then, how many of you would have survived?" The vapor contained being moved. The 4-eyed creature closed 2 eyes. Kale answered after a pause. 3. 3 of 9? "Yes. And you call this continuity? We call it learning from history." "No. You call surviving your mistakes wisdom, then deny younger civilizations the opportunity to survive theirs." For the first time, something changed in Kale's face. Not doubt. Attention. Halberstam spoke next. She talked about language. She explained that humans had words for grief in every known culture, but no 2 languages carried it in precisely the same way. She described homesickness for places lost, longing for places never seen, and the habit of telling stories about non-existent people. "Humans practice compassion on imagination," she said. "We cry for people who were never born. We fear for worlds that do not exist. We rehearse moral choices inside stories before life demands them from us." "Fiction also spreads violence," Kale replied. "Yes, language is a knife. It is also the hand that closes a wound. You propose destroying the hand because it may hold the knife." Halberstam faced the geometric column. "You once classified human compassion as destabilizing. Perhaps it is. Stability is not always moral." The column pulsed rapidly. Kale translated. "It asks whether humanity would grant this patience to a dangerous non-human species." Halberstam looked toward Lara. "We do not know yet." Kale regarded her. An unusual admission during an appeal. Honesty should not become less valuable Because the answer is inconvenient. Lara went last. She had spent the voyage trying to construct a speech. Every version sounded like someone pretending to represent 8 billion people, so she told them the truth. I do not know whether humanity deserves to survive. Kale watched her. I saw the audit. I saw what people did to each other. I know we can be cruel. I also know cruelty is not our only inheritance. She told them about her grandmother, Eleanor Bennett. Eleanor had been born on a small cattle ranch in Montana in 1936. Her father died in a winter accident when she was 12, leaving the family with more debt than food. At 17, during a blizzard that closed every road into the county, Eleanor helped deliver a stranger's baby inside an isolated farmhouse. She spent the entire night boiling water over a wood stove and following instructions from a doctor over a failing telephone line. The mother and child survived. Eleanor became a nurse. She worked emergency rooms for more than 40 years. During one wildfire evacuation, she drove through smoke and falling ash to deliver insulin to a family trapped beyond a closed highway. She once spent Christmas beside a dying patient whose children could not reach the hospital. She did not consider any of those decisions heroic. She considered them necessary because somebody needed help, and she was close enough to provide it. She died at 89 in a hospital in Helena, Lara said. I held her hand. The last thing she told me was to be kind to strangers because the world did not have enough people doing it. Lara faced the 9. My grandmother never commanded an army or invented a machine. She did not alter history in any way your models would notice, but she taught her children to help strangers. They taught us. I have no proof that humanity will choose kindness often enough. I only know people like her keep choosing it when nobody records them. Kale's staff rested against the floor. You ask us to risk other civilizations because your grandmother was kind. I ask you to admit that the future contains things your model does not value correctly. Potential kindness does not erase potential catastrophe. No, but potential catastrophe does not make us guilty. The chamber's stars slowed. Lara continued. You gave us a hearing. You could have sent a weapon. You sent a key. That means someone among you believes choice matters. Kale's gaze shifted briefly toward the geometric column. Lara saw it. You did not all agree. The vote that initiated your review is not part of this proceeding. Why? Because it is complete. Then this hearing is not an appeal. It is a ceremony. Kale's face hardened. Your time is ending. Lara looked at her analog watch. 7 minutes remained. Then answer one question. Why is our expiration countdown changing? The 9 reacted. The vapor inside one being's sphere condensed sharply. Kale's grip tightened on his staff. That information is restricted. Because the fleet is not merely approaching, Lara said. It is responding to our behavior. Nuosu looked toward her. Lara continued. You are still assessing us. If the decision were final, you would not need new data. Kale raised his staff. The hearing is concluded. The stars stopped moving. The 9 withdrew into stillness. The delegation waited. Time behaved strangely in the chamber. Lara's watch lost seconds, recovered them, then ran backward for half a minute. When the beings returned, Kale looked older. The vote is 5-4. Lara could hear her heartbeat. For cessation. The words did not echo. They did not need to. Nuosu stood without moving. Halberstam closed her eyes. Kale continued. Your species will expire in accordance with the notice. There will be no second appeal. Lara's legs nearly failed her. She thought of the drawing from Kansas, still learning. She thought of her mother waiting beside a phone. She looked at the geometric column. You voted for us. Kale did not answer. The column pulsed once. Yes, Kale translated. Why? Another pulse. It considers your uncertainty evidence of developmental possibility. Lara faced Kale. You said the Concordat once admitted unresolved species. We have admitted 3. What happened? 2 initiated conflicts that killed more than 400 million beings. And the third? Kale did not answer immediately. The 9 became attentive in a different way. The third resolved its instability. Where is it now? The geometric column brightened. Cale's voice lowered. It became a founding member of the modern Concordat. Lara looked at the column. You were us. It pulsed. You were judged dangerous. Another pulse. And someone chose to hope you could become better. The chamber shifted. Cale raised his staff. The vote is complete. What argument saved them? That record is sealed. Why? Because precedent does not supersede current risk. Nuosu stepped forward. In every legitimate court, precedent matters. This is not your court. No, Lara said. It is your fear. Cale's expression changed. Lara continued before he could end the hearing. You admitted one variable species. It became part of the institution judging us. If you erase humanity now, you are not applying a principle. You are denying us the chance someone gave you. The geometric column transmitted a long pattern. Cale listened. Then he spoke. The argument that preserved its species was this. A variable is not only a danger. A variable is a possibility. To destroy possibility because of fear is to admit that the Concordat no longer remembers hope. A Concordat without hope is not a council of living civilizations. It is a mausoleum. Lara took one step toward the 9. Then vote again. Reconsideration is not permitted after judgment. Do you still remember how to hope? Cale's face became still. Lara addressed all 9. Not as an institution, not as a ledger, as living minds who were once young enough to frighten someone older. Do you still remember? The geometric column blazed. The four-eyed being opened all 4 eyes. The immense lattice shifted, and distant stars dimmed with the motion. Cale closed his eyes. Before he could answer, the chamber shook. The stars overhead turned red. A voice entered from everywhere at once. Unauthorized reconsideration detected. Cale looked upward. Executor Serac. A figure appeared above the chamber. It was tall and narrow, its translucent body filled with threads of white light. Unlike Cale, it made no effort to appear human. The appeal has concluded, Serac said. Species 7441 remains scheduled. The geometric column pulsed angrily. Serac turned toward it. Your historical sentiment has exceeded its authority. Lara looked at Cale. Who is he? The executor assigned to your extinction. Serac raised one hand. The door to Earth opened behind the delegation. Return to your world. Your hearing has been preserved. Procedural legitimacy is complete. Lara did not move. You are afraid they will change the vote. I do not experience fear. Then let them vote. Serac's internal light sharpened. The floor vanished beneath the 3 women. They fell through the doorway. Lara struck the surface of the Pacific. The door disappeared. Above the ocean, every human device displayed a new countdown. The expiration date had lost 30 days. Humanity now had 61. The delegation returned to Area 51 as heroes who had failed. People gathered outside military bases, airports, and government buildings to hear what had happened. Some praised Lara for challenging the Concordat. Others blamed her for angering the executor and shortening the countdown. The phrase, "Do you still remember how to hope?" appeared on walls, signs, shirts, and emergency broadcasts. Lara wished the question felt more powerful. To her, it felt like the last thing she had said before being thrown from a courtroom. Reyes met the delegation beneath Hangar 18. You found disagreement, he said, and Serac stopped it. Nuosu replied. Can we reach the 9 again? The key disappeared after the door closed. Alarcon stood beside the box. He looked as though he had not slept. The key has not disappeared. He pointed toward the witness sphere. It moved. A silver shape now floated inside the sphere's black surface. The hearing changed its internal structure, Alarcon explained. The box is not merely a message container. It is connected to the Concordat's decision network. Sable Ito activated an analog receiver. The dead voices had become clearer. One spoke in English, translated by the box. We asked for mercy. Another, we threatened them. Another, we offered our children as hostages. We built weapons. We destroyed our weapons. We accepted archiving. We were erased afterward. Lara approached the sphere. How many? A voice answered. 7,440. Every intelligent species judged before humanity. The witness rose. Images spread across the hangar. A civilization living inside gas giants dismantled its cities and surrendered its technology. The continuance archived it, then collapsed the atmospheric layers sustaining life. A species of oceanic beings hid beneath its world's crust. Sarek boiled the planet from within. A mechanical civilization offered to shut itself down voluntarily if its creators were spared. The creators were erased after the machines complied. The witness was not a museum. It was a prison, constructed from final memories. One voice became distinct. I am Severin of the Avari remnant. The speaker emerged through the sphere as a pale figure composed of projected light. He possessed 4 arms, black eyes, and segmented skin. Lara looked at him. You are alive. 31 of us remain. Where? Hidden. Did your species receive a hearing? Yes. What happened? We lost by 1 vote. The words struck Lara with painful familiarity. Sarek shortened your countdown too? Sarek did not command our case. His predecessor did. The procedure changes. The result rarely does. Reyes stepped forward. Why are you speaking now? Because the witness connection became unstable when you challenged Concordat precedent. Some archived minds gained access to restricted channels. Can you help us reach the 9? Possibly. Can you help us fight the fleet? Severin's expression tightened. My species possessed weapons capable of moving moons. We destroyed 3 execution vessels. And they sent a 4th. An image appeared. The Avari home system vanished. Not exploded. Removed. Light that had left the star centuries earlier disappeared from telescopes across the galaxy. The continuance had erased the system's causal history so completely that only archived minds and hidden survivors remembered it. Severin's voice softened. My people fought for 11 days. You possess 60. Reyes looked at the extinction countdown. Then we waste neither. Humanity began preparing for war. The effort was not unified at first. Nations hoarded research. Governments competed for control over continuance technology. Wealthy groups built private shelters. Religious factions demanded surrender. Military alliances accused one another of secretly negotiating. Sarek encouraged every division. Fabricated recordings appeared, showing leaders accepting immunity in exchange for cooperation. Some were fake, some were real. 3 governments contacted the Concordat independently and offered scientific data in exchange for protected populations. The answer was identical. Selective continuance is not authorized. They had betrayed humanity for a bargain that never existed. Judge Nwosu insisted the evidence be made public. Reyes wanted the officials arrested secretly to prevent panic. If we hide this, Nwosu said, we prove Sarak's argument that fear makes us abandon our own rules. They attempted to sell billions of lives. Then let the world judge them openly. The governments released the communications. Citizens removed the officials. One nation held an emergency election within 8 days. Another collapsed into violence. Humanity did not behave nobly everywhere. It behaved openly enough that Sarek's model began producing errors. Meanwhile, Dr. Alarcon discovered what the box was doing. It had accessed every digital system touched during its global broadcast. Phones, medical databases, military networks, social media, personal archives. It was collecting humanity. The witness displayed a new status. Species archive, 68.4% complete. Lara felt sick. They are making a copy. Severin's projection nodded. The continuance considers an archived species preserved, and after it reaches 100%, biological life becomes redundant. The 91-day expiration date had never been only a fleet arrival estimate. It measured when the box would finish copying humanity well enough for the Concordat to erase the original. We stopped the archive, Reyes said. Alarcon shook his head. The box exists partly outside normal space. We cannot disconnect it from human networks because it does not use them in the way we understand. We destroy it. We tried directed energy while you were gone. Reyes looked at him. What happened? Alarcon activated a recording. A laser struck the box. The beam vanished. 3 seconds later, the emitter exploded from within. We fire something larger, Reyes said. Lara looked at the archive percentage. That is what Serac expects. What do you suggest? We reach the minds inside the witness. The dead? The Concordat uses them as evidence that extinction preserves civilizations. Let them testify that it does not. Severin regarded her. The archived are not granted legal standing. Neither were we until we used their key. You no longer possess the key. Lara looked toward the silver shape trapped inside the witness. Then we take it back. Captain Jonah Reed volunteered before anyone asked him. He was 36, served with the base security detachment, and had been among the soldiers who reached Lara after the response vehicle struck her. His glove had touched blood on the box. Black lines had appeared beneath the skin of his palm 2 days later. By the time Lara returned from the hearing, they had reached his elbow. The box already considers me an interface, Reed said. Use it, Alarcon objected. We do not know what connection will do to your nervous system. It has been doing something for a week without permission. I would prefer to participate. Reyes looked at him. You understand the risk. I understand the planet. The plan combined human quantum processors with Avari technology, transmitted by Severin's hidden vessel. Reed would connect directly to the witness. Alarcon would use his altered neural patterns to retrieve the silver key and open a channel to the archived civilizations. Lara stayed beside Reed during preparation. He sat inside a circular frame of superconductive cables and alien field emitters. Why did you volunteer? She asked. My mother lives in Montana. My sister has 2 boys. One thinks I work on weather balloons. That does not require you to die. No. Reed looked toward the box. I spent most of my life believing courage meant not being afraid. Then I met people who were not afraid. Most of them were dangerous idiots. Lara smiled faintly. What does it mean now? Knowing the price and deciding the price belongs to you. It does not belong only to you. No, my life belongs partly to everyone who loves me, but my decision is still mine. The array activated. Reed screamed before the first instrument registered power. The black lines lifted from his skin like threads drawn by invisible hands. The witness sphere expanded into a dark opening above the box. The hangar filled with worlds, cities of crystal beneath green suns, living structures floating through oceans, mechanical forests, species whose bodies existed as patterns of light. All of them ended. Lara heard their final thoughts layered together. Fear, anger, confusion, promises left unfinished. Then the silver key emerged. Alarcon reached toward it through the field. A voice spoke from Reed's mouth. You have exceeded the terms of appeal. His eyes turned silver. Executor Serac looked through him. Reyes raised his weapon. Lara stood between them. Jonah is still inside. Species representative archived, Serac said. He is alive. Temporarily. Lara approached. You prevented a second vote. The initial vote was valid. You knew it might change. The Concordat exists to prevent sentiment from overruling survival. You call hope sentiment because your model cannot calculate it. Serac turned Reed's face toward her. Hope is expectation without sufficient evidence. So is fear. The quantum field intensified. Alarcon shouted. The channel is destabilizing. Reyes made a decision. Activate the lunar relay. A defense array on the far side of the moon fired a narrow gravitational beam toward the witness connection. The purpose was not destruction. It was to hold the channel open long enough to extract the key. For 3 seconds, the plan worked. The silver object moved closer. Then Serac redirected the beam. It vanished into the box. Above the moon, spacetime folded. The beam emerged inside the lunar station that had fired it. 418 people disappeared in white light. Their final transmissions ended mid-sentence. The extinction countdown lost 12 days. The archive percentage rose to 76%. Reyes stared at the casualty display. His order had killed them. Serac spoke through Reed. Hostile behavior confirms predictive assessment. Reed's body convulsed. Lara gripped his shoulders. Jonah, fight him. His human eyes returned for 1 second. Take the key. Lara reached into the field. Pain tore through her arm. She closed her fingers around the silver object. The witness connection collapsed. Reed's heart stopped. Medical teams rushed in. They worked for 11 minutes. And at the end, Dr. Alarcon placed one hand over his face. Captain Jonah Reed was dead. The box displayed Species Representative Archived. Lara stood beside the body. You do not get to keep him. Sarek's voice emerged from the sphere. Nothing essential is lost. He was not information. He is preserved. You copied the parts you could measure. That is preservation. No, Lara said. That is theft followed by murder. The silver key remained in her hand. It had cost 419 lives. The first human attack had failed. The Concordat fleet had not yet entered the solar system. Humanity was already losing. For 2 days, Lara did not speak publicly. She sat alone in a secure room beneath Groom Lake and listened to Reed's final message to his family. He told his mother where he had hidden a photograph of his father. He told his sister he had lied when he said her cooking was terrible. He told his nephews weather balloons were more dangerous than they appeared. Then he said, I am scared. That does not mean I regret choosing. Lara replayed that sentence until it stopped sounding like bravery and became what it had always been, a person admitting the cost. Reyes visited her. His uniform looked unchanged. His face did not. I ordered the lunar relay, he said. Sarek redirected it. I provided the weapon. Yes. He looked at her, surprised she had not offered comfort. You want me to tell you it was not your fault? No. Good. Because guilt is useful only if it changes what you do next. Reyes sat across from her. I resigned command. Accepted? No. Then the staffing situation remains desperate. He almost smiled. What did Reed die for? Lara placed the silver key on the table. A second door. They opened it inside the witness. The key no longer created a physical entrance. It connected Lara, Halberstam, Nuosu, Alarcon, and Severin to the archived civilizations. They entered a landscape assembled from the memories of thousands of species. The sky contained overlapping suns. The ground changed from ocean to stone to living tissue beneath their feet. Captain Reed waited near a shoreline. He wore his damaged uniform. Lara stopped several meters away. Are you Jonah? I remember being him. That is not an answer. It is the only honest one. She approached. Do you feel alive? No. Do you feel dead? Constantly. Behind him gathered representatives of erased civilizations. Some appeared in the forms they had possessed in life. Others had chosen symbols. Severin saw his bond sister among the Avari. He fell to his knees. You left before the southern oceans burned, she said. I was ordered to preserve our history. You preserved the fear. I preserved what I could. The Concordat preserved what it wanted. Severin's 4 hands trembled. I am sorry. Then help those who still have bodies. Lara faced the gathered dead. We need your testimony. A mechanical form answered. Archived constructs possess no legal standing. We know. Executor Sarek will erase any pattern that resists. We know. You may fail. Yes. The being's geometry shifted. You answer uncertainty without denial. Humanity has extensive experience doing things without knowing whether they will work. Reed stepped beside her. What is the plan? Lara looked toward Alarcon. He projected the continuance model. The system predicted species behavior by reducing billions of individuals into categories: survival, reproduction, hierarchy, resource access, fear avoidance, and ideological loyalty. It understood sacrifice as strategy, love as attachment, art as signaling, mercy as reputation management. It could predict randomness. What it could not process well was meaning that changed between people. A promise had value only if someone trusted it. Forgiveness changed both victim and offender. A story meant something different depending on who heard it. Compassion toward imaginary people trained minds for choices no immediate incentive explained. We will give the archive what it cannot compress, Alarcon said. Halberstam named the project Babel. Humanity began constructing a species record designed not to be completed. Scientists uploaded theories for rivals to finish. Musicians transmitted unfinished compositions. Children wrote stories without endings. Former enemies made conditional promises to rebuild one another's cities. Prisoners were given responsibility for protecting people who had once feared them. Soldiers transferred command decisions to civilians. Families separated by war chose together which memories they wanted preserved. The goal was not chaos. Chaos was easy to classify. The goal was interdependence, choices whose meaning existed between minds rather than inside one. The archive percentage climbed, 82, 88, 93. Serac appeared across every screen on Earth. Humanity saw his true form, a translucent being filled with lines of controlled light, standing aboard a dark vessel surrounded by stars. "You are corrupting your preservation," Lara answered from Area 51. "We are refusing your definition." The archive ensures that your essential characteristics survive. You classify grief as memory loss, disability as error, contradiction as instability, and love as reproductive behavior. Emotional labels do not alter function. They alter why the function matters. Serac's inner light dimmed. You mistake subjective experience for universal value. You mistake measurement for ownership. The transmission shifted. Humanity saw a sky tearing open above an alien world. Cities vanished beneath a spreading fracture in spacetime. Refugee vessels were consumed before escaping orbit. Serac appeared in an older biological body, holding a child whose form dissolved into light. The Oruchun fracture killed 400 million across 7 worlds, Serac said. It began with a civilization that insisted potential was not guilt. It claimed the right to risk others. Lara watched the child disappear from his arms. For the first time, she understood him. Not agreed, understood. You survived. My biological form did not. The Concordat archived you. Yes. And you spent 3 million years making every young civilization pay for what happened to your child. I prevented recurrence. You converted grief into law. I converted evidence into protection. No, you increased our probability because uncertainty reminded you of the Oru Fun. Serac's light sharpened. You cannot prove that. Then open the original model. He ended the transmission. The archive reached 96%. Beyond Neptune, stars began disappearing. The execution fleet had arrived. There were 1,204 continuance vessels. They did not resemble ships. Each appeared as a region of missing space, shaped into black geometry. Starlight curved around them. They moved without acceleration and crossed distances without occupying the points between. Severin had expected fewer than 50. Serac committed an enforcement force, intended for a sector war, he said. Reyes studied the tactical display. He thinks we are dangerous. He thinks the 9 may reconsider. Humanity activated Aegis. The planetary defense network contained weapons from every major power, private aerospace systems, repurposed satellites, experimental propulsion craft and technology shared by the surviving Avari. None of it could defeat the fleet conventionally. The first engagement occurred near Saturn. Thousands of drones spread across millions of kilometers. Some carried nuclear warheads. Some carried sensors. Some were empty. The continuance destroyed the armed drones first. Alarcon examined the data. They are not detecting explosives. They are predicting which drones our commanders consider dangerous. Reyes leaned over the display. Change who knows. Aegis separated design, assembly, and deployment. Engineers built components without being told their final purpose. Commanders received incomplete inventories. Target assignments occurred seconds before launch. The continuance's response slowed. A mining laser struck one vessel. It did not penetrate. The ship shifted position by 17 meters. People across Earth celebrated the movement. Humanity had forced an execution vessel to react. The second attack used tungsten projectiles hidden among scientific probes. One struck a smaller ship while its defenses targeted a harmless communications platform. The vessel fractured. For 1.7 seconds, the fleet stopped advancing. Then it erased every human craft in the region. 6,000 people died. The balance had changed anyway. The Continuance fleet had faced civilizations with centralized strategies. Human cooperation remained fragmented even when coordinated. That made prediction expensive. Sarek adapted. He attacked trust. Fabricated evidence claimed some nations had sabotaged Aegis. False recordings showed commanders discussing which cities to abandon. Real documents revealing private shelters were mixed among the lies. Riots began. Military units refused orders. 3 defense alliances nearly withdrew. Judge Nuosu addressed the planet. Sarek does not need us to believe every lie. He needs us to stop believing one another. Governments released internal records to independent review. Some leaders fell. Others were vindicated. Transparency created new conflicts, but it denied Sarek the secrecy he needed. The fleet crossed Jupiter. The execution countdown fell beneath 10 days. At Mars, 28,000 colonists received an offer. Complete neural archiving will prevent information loss. Governor Alina Cho answered. We have already sent our contribution. The Mars colony transmitted geological maps, failed experiments, family recordings, and the sound of wind against habitat walls. Then the colonists left their shelters in pressure suits. They formed a question mark across the red surface. A continuance vessel aimed at them. Its weapon charged, then stopped. The colonists posed no military threat. Their extinction had no immediate causal justification beyond Sarek's general order. The local executive intelligence hesitated. 9 seconds. Babel entered through the hesitation. The vessel turned away from Mars. Another continuance ship destroyed it. The explosion lit half the planet's sky. The fleet had killed one of its own vessels to preserve obedience. The box displayed, Witness 9 requests formal review. Sarek denied the request. Then Witness 4 joined it. 2 of the 9 wanted the case reopened. The geometric founding species appeared through the witness and addressed Lara. Executor authority is anchored in the species terminal. The box, Lara said. Affirmative. If we remove Sarek's control, the fleet may vote independently. May, outcome unpredicted. Lara smiled without humor. Good. The box's archive reached 99%. The final 1% required direct patterns from people who had never connected to a network, isolated communities, newborns, patients without records, and individuals who had refused participation. Reyes looked at the countdown. Can the box take them without consent? Alarcon nodded. If we open the channel fully, Lara shook her head. Then we do not. If the archive remains incomplete, Sarek keeps control, Reyes said. We ask them. There is no time to locate everyone. We broadcast the choice, humanity asked. Most agreed, some did not. The archive stopped at 99.73%. Sarek transmitted one sentence. Your ethics are a temporary luxury. Lara answered publicly. No, ethics are the part of us that matters when everything else becomes expensive. The fleet surrounded Earth. 3 days remained. Black shapes crossed the sun. At night, missing sections appeared among the stars. Continuance constructs descended over communication centers, military bases, and Babel transmitters. Humanity's advanced systems failed first. Satellites stopped responding. Guided weapons lost targeting. Encrypted networks collapsed. Armies returned to paper maps, mechanical timers, runners, and analog radios. Sarek had prepared for human technology. He had not prepared for bicycles carrying command messages between bunkers. In Nevada, soldiers collapsed dry lake beds beneath advancing constructs. In Finland, engineers lured machines onto frozen lakes and shattered the ice. In Bangladesh, fishing boats carried transmitters through river networks after orbital systems failed. In Kenya, mobile towers were mounted on livestock convoys because continuance targeting prioritized vehicles. No tactic worked twice. Every tactic bought minutes. Area 51 became the center of the final attempt. The silver key could open Sarek's authority anchor only if a living consciousness completed the archive connection. That mind might never return. Lara volunteered. Reyes refused. You are not trained for neural interface. Neither was Reed. That is not an argument in your favor. The box identified me as contact representative. It identified you because you bled on it. Human institutions have been built on weaker qualifications. Halberstam placed the Kansas child's drawing on the table. Tell them we are still learning. The missing percentage is not missing people, she said. Alarcon looked at her. What? The archive has almost every living mind. What can it never complete? Lara understood. The future, promises, unfinished stories, choices not yet made. The box could copy humanity's past and present. It could not preserve what humans had not chosen to become. The final 1% was not data. It was possibility. Lara would enter the archive carrying Babel's unresolved promises. If the archived civilizations testified through a living human, Sarek's authority could be challenged before the 9. Outside, explosions struck the upper levels of the base. Reyes handed Lara Reed's identification tag. I recovered it from the interface chamber. She closed her fingers around the metal. You came to say goodbye? I came to tell you I was wrong. About what? I spent my career believing leadership meant reducing uncertainty for everyone beneath me. And now, sometimes it means standing where the consequences arrive. He turned toward the door. Make the dead difficult to ignore. Reyes joined the defense. Lara lay inside the rebuilt quantum frame. Alarcon connected the neural leads. If the system attempts to copy you, resist fixed memory structures. That sentence means nothing to me. Good. The box may also find it confusing. Halberstam took Lara's hand. What do I say when I reach them? Do not make a speech. Useful advice from the woman who gave 3 speeches to the Concordat. I am older and therefore allowed hypocrisy. Nuosu stood on Lara's other side. Do not ask whether humanity is innocent. We are not. Ask whether the Concordat has the right to replace responsibility with prediction. The base shook again. Alarcon looked at Lara. Bring back a question. The array activated. Lara entered the archive beneath every sunset humanity had ever recorded. Orange skies over deserts, purple clouds above oceans, city windows during blackouts, hospital rooms, refugee camps, childhood bedrooms. Billions of memories overlapped without becoming one. She felt first kisses, forgotten birthdays, empty homes, betrayals, reconciliations and kindnesses never entered into any history. The archive possessed humanity's information. It did not understand its weight. Captain Reed waited beside a shoreline. You returned, he said. Temporarily. Serac is closing access. Behind Reed stood the erased civilizations. Severin's bond sister, mechanical minds, oceanic beings, creatures of light, representations chosen from memories, because bodies no longer existed. Lara carried Babel into the center of the archive. Promises spread around them. A child promising to learn the language of an extinct species. A scientist promising not to build a weapon she now understood. A former soldier promising to help rebuild a city he had once attacked. A prisoner promising to protect the family of someone who testified against him. Some promises would be broken. That uncertainty was part of their meaning. Unfinished music followed, equations without proofs, buildings whose foundations had been laid that morning, questions children had asked that no adult could answer. The archive attempted to classify them. Serac appeared above the shore. You are preventing preservation. Lara faced him. We are preventing completion. Your biological species will terminate. Unfinished content will become irrelevant. Only if you win. He expanded until his light filled the sky. You believe uncertainty grants moral protection. No, I believe certainty does not grant you permission. The erased civilizations moved closer. Serac addressed them. Archived constructs do not possess legal identity. Reed stepped forward. You use us as proof that nothing was lost. You are preserved. I remember dying every moment. You possess continuity of pattern. I possess the shape of a person without the life that made the shape matter. The Avari dead joined him, then others. thousands, millions. Species Sarek had reduced to records. Lara opened the silver key. The archive connected to the Concordat chamber. The 9 appeared above them. Kale stood in the center. Sarek raised one hand. This proceeding is unauthorized. Nuosu's voice entered through Lara's living connection. Your own witness established the evidence. Archived patterns cannot testify. Lara Bennett is alive, Nuosu said. She testifies to what she is experiencing. Kale looked toward Lara. What do you ask? Reconsideration. That motion remains procedurally restricted. Then answer whether the original probability was altered. Sarak's light surged. Kale turned toward him. Open the initial model. Executor Security Authority prohibits disclosure. Witness 9 spoke. Formal review overrides executor security. Witness 4 joined, then Witness 7. Sarak attacked the connection. The archive sky split. Memories began disappearing. Entire extinct civilizations flickered. Lara felt the neural array burning through her physical body. Outside Area 51, continuance constructs entered the underground corridors. Reyes led the remaining defenders through smoke and emergency lighting. The machines anticipated firing positions, retreat routes, and explosive traps, so Reyes abandoned military logic. He ordered every surviving soldier to carry an object unrelated to combat, a family photograph, a medical kit, a musical instrument, a child's toy recovered from a shelter. The constructs classified intentions incorrectly. Soldiers moved through predicted kill zones while carrying what the machines assumed were rescue priorities. At the final corridor, Reyes wrapped his uniform jacket around a pressure canister and carried it like an injured person. The construct ahead prioritized biological capture. It approached. Reyes triggered the charge. The corridor collapsed. The explosion buried him and the machine. The defense gained 4 minutes. Inside the archive, Lara felt his death arrive through Babel. A promise appeared. Marcus Reyes had transmitted the truth about Jonah Reed's death to Reed's family before the battle. He had kept it. The archive rejected Sarek's attempt to classify all promises as uncertain. Some had already transformed into responsibility. The 9 accessed the original humanity model. Numbers unfolded across the sky. Projected causal fracture probability, 61.4%. Lara stared at it. The notice had claimed 99.9971%. Kale looked toward Sarek. You altered the assessment. I corrected for behavioral instability, without authorization. Uncertainty increased risk beyond acceptable thresholds. The geometric founder blazed. You converted fear into evidence. Sarek showed the Orun catastrophe again. Worlds collapsing. The child dissolving in his arms. 61% is intolerable. Lara stepped into the memory. She stood beside the biological Sarek, beneath the broken sky. You were right to fear this. His ancient self held the child tighter. You admit it. I admit the danger is real. Sarak's expression shifted. You still demand survival. I demand responsibility. Your species may fail. Yes. Trillions may die. Then share what you know. Help us build safeguards. Watch us. Challenge us. But do not murder people for crimes that exist only in your projection. I will not permit another Orun. You already created thousands. The erased civilizations surrounded him. You made every world pay for the one you lost. Sarak's light trembled. The distinction is emotional. Yes, Lara said. That is the part you amputated from justice. Above Earth, the execution fleet began firing. The first beam struck the Pacific. Water rose in a column wide enough to be seen from orbit. The seafloor glowed beneath exposed atmosphere. Then the beam stopped. Witness 9 seized control of one execution vessel. A second weapon formed above Europe. Witness 4 blocked its command. Other ships continued. Aegis launched every remaining weapon. Mechanical guidance systems sent missiles upward. Aircraft carried Babel transmitters into the atmosphere. Civilian radio stations broadcast the testimony of extinct civilizations. The sky filled with signals. Not one voice speaking for humanity. Billions. Some prayed. Some cursed. Some sang. Some read names of the dead. A farmer in Montana described the field he wanted his grandson to inherit. A woman in Gaza and a woman in Tel Aviv transmitted the names of children they had lost. A Brazilian surgeon broadcast the rhythm of a transplanted heart. A fisherman in Bangladesh sent the sound of his daughter laughing, the same sound humanity had transmitted during the first response window. The continuance model attempted to resolve 8 billion meanings. It could not reduce them quickly enough. Inside the archive, the 9 began voting. Witness 9, suspend expiration. Witness 4, suspend pending full review. Witness 7, terminate Sarek's authority. The geometric founder voted for humanity. 4 votes. Kale looked toward Lara. You have not disproven catastrophic potential. No. You have not demonstrated stable moral development. No. You remain dangerous. Yes. Sarek's light strengthened. Kale continued. Why should we risk the lives of others? Lara looked toward the unfinished promises. Because no civilization becomes responsible by being denied responsibility. That is faith. It is controlled risk. Your species has barely controlled itself. Then do not leave us alone with the technology that frightened you. Teach us. Let other civilizations inspect us. Require safeguards. Make us answer for what we build. You accept oversight? We accept accountability, not ownership. Kale turned toward Sarek. You offered extinction as the only alternative to catastrophe. It is the only certain alternative. Lara understood the final argument. Extinction is also catastrophe. Sarek faced her. Localized. To the people living it, there is no local extinction. The geometric founder transmitted the ancient words that had once saved its own species. A variable is a possibility. Kale raised his staff. Before he could vote, Sarek struck the archive. The shoreline shattered. Millions of stored minds began dissolving. Reed looked at Lara. He is deleting us. The erased civilizations could preserve themselves by withdrawing. Some did. They had been imprisoned too long to risk final disappearance. Others remained. Severin's bond sister took Reed's hand. We were recorded without consent. A mechanical civilization joined them. We will choose the manner of our ending. One by one, the archived dead entered Babel. Their memories became unresolved testimony, not weapons, choices. Sarek could no longer classify them as passive records. He could not preserve his authority without acknowledging them as minds. The archive forced a contradiction. If the dead were only data, their testimony could not threaten him. If their testimony could threaten him, they possessed agency. The continuance system demanded resolution. Legal status of archived consciousness, undefined. Sarek attempted to delete the category. Kale blocked him. The 5th vote remained undecided. The oldest of the 9, an intelligence called Witness 1, had not spoken. Its presence filled the distant lattice beyond the chamber. When it finally answered, the voice carried no emotion Lara could recognize. Species 7441 has not disproven catastrophic potential. Sarek brightened. Lara closed her eyes. Witness 1 continued. The Concordat has not disproven its own. Every execution vessel stopped. Weapons froze above Earth. Witness 1 opened records older than Sarek. Thousands of expiration decisions appeared. In 603 cases, Sarek had manually increased risk assessments. Each civilization possessed traits resembling the Oruan: creativity, rapid adaptation, decentralized innovation, or social unpredictability. He had not eliminated proven threats. He had eliminated reminders. Witness 1 issued judgment. Executor Sarek converted unresolved trauma into unauthorized policy. I protected continuity. You prevented evidence from challenging your fear. The risk remains. Then the Concordat will share responsibility for reducing it. Sarek turned toward Lara. You have won an argument, not safety. No, she said. We won the right to be responsible for what we become. You will fail, possibly. Your descendants may curse this decision. Then they will at least exist to make the judgment. Sarek's form began separating into threads of light. What happens to me? Lara could have demanded erasure. Reed stood beside her. Thousands of dead civilizations waited. You face everyone you preserved, Lara said. Sarek looked at them. For the first time, his expression contained fear without the protection of policy. The erased civilizations did not attack. They began to testify. Names, homes, children, songs, promises, final moments. Sarek had spent 3 million years turning lives into percentages. Now he would hear what every number contained. The black box at Area 51 fractured. Its surfaces unfolded into thousands of transparent layers. The expiration countdown reached 0. No weapon fired. No world vanished. The display changed. Species 7441. Expiration order revoked. The population counter continued. 8,177,204,661. It rose by 4, dropped by 2, rose by 7. Life did not pause to celebrate permission. It continued. Victory first looked like rescue crews, hospitals without power, flooded coastlines, broken communication networks, families waiting for names. More than 2 million people had died during the final days. The lunar station was gone. Thousands of Aegis personnel had been erased near Saturn. Colonel Marcus Reyes was found beneath the collapsed corridor, with Jonah Reed's identification tag still in his hand. Lara carried the tag to Reed's mother in Montana. She expected anger. Instead, Mrs. Reed invited her inside and placed 2 cups of coffee on the table. "My son said you would blame yourself," she said. "He died helping me reach the archive. He died choosing. That does not make it easier. No, it makes it his." They activated a witness terminal. Reed appeared as a projected figure. His mother looked at him for a long time. "Are you alive?" Reed considered. "No." She began crying. "But I am still here in a way I did not choose. Do you want to stay? Long enough to say goodbye." They spoke for 23 minutes. Then Reed requested deletion from the archive. The new Concordat authority asked whether he was certain. He laughed. "For the first time, you are asking." His pattern ended. Not erased by an executioner, released by his own decision. The same choice was offered to every archived civilization. Some chose to remain as teachers, historians, or witnesses. Some requested biological reconstruction if compatible worlds could be found. Others chose final silence. The Concordat had called the archive preservation. Humanity taught it that preservation without consent was another form of captivity. Severin's people emerged from hiding. Only 31 Avari remained biologically alive, but their archived ancestors helped reconstruct lost language, art, and science. Severin removed the mourning symbols that had covered his body for 3 centuries. "My people will return to the stars," he told Lara. "To rebuild your home? Our home is gone." Then where? Somewhere unfinished. The execution fleet remained in Earth orbit for months. Some ships accepted the authority of the reformed Concordat, others fled. 3 attempted to continue Sarek's orders and were disabled by their own crews. Humanity gained access to technologies capable of moving between stars, repairing ecosystems and manipulating gravity. World leaders immediately argued over ownership. Lara found that reassuring. Humanity had not become wise because it survived. It had become accountable for learning. Judge Nwosu helped establish the unfinished accord. It was not an empire and did not require member species to surrender independence. Its first principle declared no civilization may be punished for a future crime. Its second principle was harder. Any civilization capable of creating existential harm must accept transparent safeguards, independent inspection, and responsibility beyond its own world. Freedom without responsibility had created the Orun. Safety without freedom had created the continuance. The accord would attempt something between them. Attempt was written deliberately. Dr. Alarcon studied the technology that humanity had been predicted to create in 411 years. He discovered that the danger was real. Human experiments with quantum vacuum energy would eventually have reached the same causal structure the Orun had broken. Without continuance knowledge, humanity might have caused a smaller fracture within 2 centuries. Sarek had not invented the threat. He had lied about certainty. Humanity suspended the dangerous research voluntarily. Scientists from 14 species began developing safeguards. Lara attended the first meeting. An alien physicist asked why humans were willing to abandon a technology that could provide limitless energy. Because survival does not grant ownership over everyone else's risk, she said. The physicist studied her. Your species learned quickly. We learned under an unreasonable deadline. Halberstam lived another 9 years. Before her death, she created a linguistic archive connecting human languages to those of the erased civilizations. Her final entry concerned a word from a species that had lived beneath a violet star. The word meant the courage to remain unfinished in the presence of those demanding an answer. Judge Nwosu became the first Chief Justice of the Accord Tribunal. She spent her remaining years handling cases no human legal system had imagined. One involved a reconstructed civilization, suing the Concordat for control of its own historical memory. Another involved a sentient execution vessel requesting asylum. Nwosu ruled that a machine built for genocide could become something else only if it accepted responsibility for what it had done. The vessel agreed. It spent the next century repairing worlds damaged by the fleet. Lara did not become president. She did not become a general. She became Earth's first ambassador to the Concordat. She married a schoolteacher named Daniel Carter, who said her worst diplomatic habit was answering simple questions with larger questions. They had a daughter named Emma. Lara told her stories about Eleanor Bennett, the grandmother whose quiet kindness had once been offered as evidence before 9 ancient species. She also told Emma about Reed and Reyes, not as heroes carved from certainty, as frightened people who chose while afraid. 50 years after the box appeared at Area 51, Lara Bennett returned to the Concordat. She was 73. Her hair had turned white. Her hands trembled slightly when tired. She carried a wooden cane and the same analog watch Reyes had given her aboard the submarine. It had never kept accurate time after the missing 11 seconds. She refused to repair it. The door opened above the Pacific. This time, hundreds of vessels waited at a respectful distance. Human, Avari, Concordat, species that had once hidden from extinction. Lara stepped across the water alone. The chamber had changed. The rotating stars now included Sol. The geometric founder pulsed a greeting. The four-eyed being's successor lowered its head. Several of the original 9 had passed or chosen to leave the Concordat. Kale remained. He no longer wore the expression of a canyon. Time had made him appear more like a river, old, patient, and visibly altered by everything that had passed through him. Airman Bennett, he said. Ambassador now. Titles accumulate. So do consequences. He smiled. The Concordat had not summoned her for judgment. Humanity's expiration date had been erased from the ledger. She had come because of a promise made in the first hearing. Kale descended from the central platform. 50 years ago you asked us a question. I remember. We have prepared an answer. Lara looked at the 9. Do you still remember how to hope? The geometric founder illuminated the chamber. Kale replied. We do. Lara waited. He continued. We were reminded. For a moment she was 23 again, standing on a taxiway with blood on her hand and a countdown above a black box. Then a new signal entered the chamber. It did not originate from Earth. It did not come from any Accord world. The stars overhead rearranged themselves into a map beyond known territory. Galaxies moved, not stars inside galaxies. The galaxies themselves changed position, forming a pattern too large to have occurred naturally. Kale looked toward Witness 1. What is this? The ancient intelligence answered. The continuance did not create the first ledger. A message appeared. Its structure was older than Concordat language, older than the Orufun, older than every civilization represented in the chamber. The message translated itself. Species 7441. Continuance experiment concluded. Unpredicted survival confirmed. Lara stepped closer. Another line followed. You have inherited responsibility for the unfinished. Coordinates appeared beyond the farthest region any known vessel had explored. Then came a question. No threat, no countdown, no demand. How many others will you teach to survive? Kale looked at Lara. What will humanity answer? She thought of billions of voices flooding the sky, songs, arguments, confessions, promises, stories without endings. Humanity had not survived because it was innocent. It had survived because it refused to let prediction become destiny, or fear become permission, or preservation become a substitute for life. Lara opened a channel to Earth. Her daughter answered from the Accord Command Center. Mother, we received a message. Is it dangerous? Probably. Do we understand it? Not remotely. Emma laughed. What do they want? Lara looked at the distant coordinates. They want to know how many others we can teach to survive. And what do we tell them? Lara remembered Reyes standing beneath Hangar 18. If someone comes to kill humanity, humanity is entitled to be inconvenient. She remembered Reed. Courage belongs to the person who understands the price. She remembered Eleanor Bennett. Be kind to strangers. The world does not have enough of them. Lara watched Earth appear among the chamber's stars. A small world, still divided, still learning, still dangerous, still capable of mercy no model could justify. Tell them humanity received its expiration date, she said. Emma waited. And? Lara smiled. And we decided it was only a deadline.